Good morning. If you can hear me, put a yes in the chat. So today is day 3 of the LinkedIn Growth Masterclass. Hello, Gail. Hello, Michael. Wolfgang. Partnerships _ bro. That's funny. How's everyone doing today? Okay, so today what we're going to learn is how to actually set up the event. We didn't cover that yesterday. And things that you should be thinking of in terms of promoting the event, getting ready for the event, all of that. Because you definitely want to plan in advance. And just so I get a read of the room, how many connections do you all have on LinkedIn? Like how many followers? So that I have a pretty good understanding. And then we're going to talk about best practices in terms of delivery of the event and also in terms of content creation, after the event and just ongoing content creation and posting in general. So I'm seeing in the chat 10,000 connections, 16,000 connections, 15,000 connections. You have such an advantage to deploy the strategy that we have talked about in the last three days. It'll be 3 days by the end of today. 17,000. That's insane. So anyone with more than 4,000 plus connections on LinkedIn, the prioritization of the live video just makes so much more sense for you because you can max out the 4,000 invites. And we'll get into all of that today. But just know that if you're not doing that and you're leaving a lot on the table in terms of 7,000. Yeah, that's crazy. Okay. So before we actually begin that, I told you that I would share how we could help you. One of the main offers that I do is it's not a course, it's an accelerator. So basically a 5-week sprint. Each of the weeks we do something actionable. I'm going to show you that screen. I'll pin the offer to the top and then we'll go through the content. And I'll go through the start date and all of that. Hold on. Oh, there we go. Let me see. You should see it pinned. The moderator put it in the chat, but I'll pin it. And we'll go through it. First and foremost. Okay. So let me go through this. Okay, so this starts on Tuesday, and it basically is an accelerator going through everything that we have covered in the last, 2 days, really. But at the end of day 3, it'll be everything. And it's a process that I work with clients within the accelerator, which is live training. We'll meet every single week, and you'll have the weekly accountability of getting that thing done that week. So that's also the benefit of doing this, is not just you're watching modules. If you don't do it by the end of the week, we meet on Tuesday. If the thing is not done by Friday, you will have somebody else on the team being like, hey, what's, nudging, trying to just help you get it done, so on and so forth. So the first step is you'll meet with me one-on-one. We will work through your LinkedIn strategy and your profile optimization. Maybe your profile already looks pretty okay, 70% of the way there. Maybe you even use the profile optimizer, but maybe you're leaning into not niching enough down into a category. Or maybe you're approaching LinkedIn in a way where you may be thinking too small. For example, I met with somebody who is actually in this cohort coming up, and they have a very high value expertise where they could be paid multiple 6 figures for every client. They had just never had that type of acquisition on LinkedIn before, and they wanted to initially approach LinkedIn with a much smaller offer in terms of value and in terms of just leverage. And because of the conversation that we had, now, they leaned more into the initial, their highest value offer. And that messaging has already been proven to work because they signed up in December for this cohort. So they already have had, with just a shift in messaging, a reach out. So the thing is, sometimes you could have the entire profile optimized correctly, but it could be for the wrong mark. So we'll kind of go through it and we'll meet one-on-one. Week 1, your entire strategy and profile will be figured out and it'll look beauty-miss. Week 2, we launch your LinkedIn newsletter. If you have one, we may have to relaunch it depending on if the title is wrong or whatever. If the title is right and maybe you just have it active, then we start to revive it. So week 2 is everything LinkedIn newsletters, from the launch to preparing for your next 4 newsletters, exactly what to publish, how to do it. You get templates, you'll get tools that will help you do it with a lot more ease. And that training is absolutely incredible. We'll also cover the best practices to rank outside of Google much deeper than we did, or outside of LinkedIn, on things like Google and ChatGPT and things like that, much deeper than we did yesterday. And it's small. So I keep this to 10 people or less so that it's still highly personalized and kind of bespoke boutique experience. Week 3, we create your first or next LinkedIn Live event. And then we hold you accountable for the remainder of the weeks to actually promote it and do the things that we learned to do to get people there. Like, actually creating it weeks in advance, inviting 1,000 people per week, because some people are, like, it's human nature to be a little bit scared to invite all those people. So sometimes people know how to invite people, but they just don't want to click the button and put themselves out there. It's very vulnerable. Those are the types of things that you'll get a little push on during this. Week 4 is actually how to start practicing the video delivery. So how do you present yourself? What are the best frameworks and processes that we've seen work when it comes to people actually attracting the clients that they want to attract? And what are things to plan for in advance so that the value of the video is highly repurposable, so that you're not in the middle of the video saying, hey, John, hey, Sally, or whatever. And then it increases the editing drama and frustration a million times over. And then week 5, we really talk about, okay, now that you understand the weekly publishing of the newsletter, now that you understand the importance of the live video event monthly, now that you've already, created your upcoming second live video event, how do we systematize this? How do we put this into content where you're posting at least 5 times a week? And how do you do that in a sustainable fashion? And I go through all of that. People love week 5. Like, this last cohort that ended in December was like, this training alone was phenomenal. And you've given the system and the foundation that will literally give business owners the best chance of success. Like, the raving of week 5, I was like, okay, and we so we learned the 4 phases of category authority and how to basically go from phase 1 to phase 4. Even there is a phase 5, depending on how big your team is and stuff like that. So what's included is you show up to all of these trainings. You'll also get the recaps of the trainings. You'll get the accountability to achieve every single one of these weekly outcomes so that, you don't have to just depend on your own self-motivation to do it. You'll get access to a bunch of frameworks, proven frameworks, templates, tools that we have, and you'll meet some cool people along the way that are on the same path as you. The next cohort starts Tuesday, January 27th. We meet weekly at 11:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, you'll also get the one-on-one strategy call to start off everything. So if and when you join today, if you're available tomorrow or Monday, we'll do your strategy call. If not, we'll just do it another day during next week, but it has to be next week because the metric for next week is strategy and optimization, because the following week is already newsletters. And it sounds like slow, but weeks pass fast and it's a lot to do. And it also just keeps the pressure on so people do the thing. This is also why a lot of the people that I mentor, a lot of the people that I coach, years later, they're still posting. Years later, they're still doing their newsletters. Years later, they're still doing the videos. And it's because it's a skill building system and it's a stacking system. So you're not learning how to do everything at once. You're really learning all of the facets of the machine and learning how to operationalize that along the way within your business. And you'll also get the training recordings. So if you want to join, the link is pinned to the top. It will be at that price during the live. This offer link will expire. You won't be able to find it. And obviously it's limited. I don't like more than 10 people in a cohort. We already have half the cohort filled, so we'll be filled by Tuesday. Okay, so let's move forward. So and if you have any questions, just put them in the chat and I'll address them at the end of the training. Now, for your live video event, you're going to need to have a third-party tool, okay? The third-party tool will have to be something, I highly recommend StreamYard or Restream, but the point is why you need that is that you have to use a third-party tool to go live on LinkedIn because there's no native live feature. Like there's no button that says join live. So good place to start is StreamYard. It's free to start. It's not free if you want the recordings, but if you're going to take this seriously, it'll pay you back, obviously, because then you'll be able to leverage that recorded asset for other types of content. If you don't pay for it, the only way to get a recording is if you like screen record your computer and it's just a pain. So I highly recommend just paying for the membership that has the recording. Another service that's slightly cheaper in terms of cost is Restream. And I think theirs is like $20 or $30. And I think StreamYard's like $40 a month for the recordings. But again, if you're going to do one of these, even if you do it 3 months and you get one client and that one client pays you 25 grand or 50 or 100 because you're a B2B consultant, what's the ROI on that? So you'll have this and then you'll see live stream. You'll see the connections here. You could click add a new destination here, or what you could do is you could just add them in advance over here so that the bubbles are there. And as you can see here, there's a bunch of destinations. The one that you want to choose for LinkedIn is obviously LinkedIn and then LinkedIn profile. The other thing is that if you do have a LinkedIn company page, you can't stream to the LinkedIn profile and the company page under the same account at the same time. They see it as two distinct, it could get a little confusing. And I don't even recommend that. So here's the LinkedIn profile, then you will log in. If you already have more than like 250 followers, once in a blue moon, you may see a restriction message that says like, hey, you do not have access to LinkedIn Live. Sometimes I've even seen it with people that have a few thousand followers. And the reason for that is most likely that you have not posted consistently or semi-consistently within the last month. And usually if you just start to post here and there for a couple of weeks, you'll log in and the restriction will be automatically lifted. If not, you could put in a help ticket. I've personally helped people within the last 8 weeks, about 5 people, and all of them got the restriction lifted. So it's just about being a little bit persistent sometimes and about proving that you're going to post content that's valuable to the community and stuff like that. So you'll add the destination, and then up here, you'll click live stream, and then you'll click LinkedIn. This is where you'll schedule your event, okay? So if I put in LinkedIn marketing strategy for CEOs in 2026. Again, the title of your event should be for your ICP. You'll click this button down here that says schedule for later. And this is where you want to be cognizant that you want to plan in advance. So remember, if you have 4,000 plus connections or more, you can invite 4,000 people every single month. They break it down by 1,000 per week. Okay, so you can't invite 4,000 at once. You have to invite 1,000 per week, which means that if I want to invite all 4,000, then this event would have to be held at the end of February, which is why it's important to, if I were you, at least create your first or next LinkedIn Live event within the next few days so that you can plan in advance, especially if you have the 4,000. So let me just upload a thumbnail. And I'll use one that I already have here. Like LinkedIn marketing. Ideally, it'd be LinkedIn marketing for CEOs on the thumbnail. Very simple. Your face on the right, the topic in a few words on the left. A good test for that is if you look at it at 11 p.m. at night on your phone and it's small and you're tired, then, and you could read it very easily, that's a pretty good test that the thumbnail is good. Then what you'll do is you'll click create live stream and you'll pick the right date. We'll fix it. So let's just say you do that and you put the wrong date. You could always fix the event on the LinkedIn side. So you don't have to panic and delete, right? But the point is that when you click publish or create live stream, what it will do is it will publish to your profile. All right. So now we see this. It magically, magically with technology came to my LinkedIn profile. They are changing this. Okay. So this is what it looks like. And then you'll click manage event. And then you'll click edit event. All right. You'll see down here the time and the date. So I could change it. We'll do the 24th or I'll do the 23rd. Let's do the 23rd and I'll do like 10 a.m. I'll do 11 a.m. You could also add yourself as a speaker here by just searching your name and then click save. Okay. Here you'll click share. All right. And then you'll click invite. Now, this is where you can max out your 1,000 event invites. How do you do that? You could do it a few ways. So one of the ways you can't do it is you can't put like CEO and then like all the CEOs propagate. You can kind of go through the list and be like, okay, he's a CEO and then she's a CEO and they're a CEO, You can do that and then you could invite like one at a time, which is a lot to do. Or what you could do is you could do share, invite, okay? And then what could happen is you could filter the location. So once I select a filter, let's say I can only work with clients in the US, I click show results, and then these will be all the people in my network in the US. And now, as you can see, there's like a checkbox here. So I'll do that one more time. So I'm going to clear. If I choose a filter locations, US, show results. All right. And then I could scroll down like this. All right. And then I could click the checkbox. So you see 60, I could scroll down and it'll be like, 90. So as you scroll, the more people that are in the checkbox. So you see now it's 110 and you could do up to 1,000 every week. So you would it's a little bit tedious in that you just continue to scroll, but it's easier than doing one at a time. You could also filter by like school industry. So let's say that I wanted to, I mainly sold to healthcare professionals in the US. Now there's two filters where now everyone on my list is in healthcare in the US and maybe more targeted, right? And then I'll just click this and I would just continue to scroll. And again, as I scroll, I just unlock more people. I would do that till about like 900 and something people so that it doesn't go over 1,000. And as you could see, I just invite in bulk. Okay. Does this make sense? Any questions on this specifically? Because this is important. When people are like, what's the first thing that I can do to have my event be a success? It's just like leverage the numbers. And what people will do is that they'll create the event and they'll only invite like 1,000 out of 4,000, which is like insane. If you have the 4,000 connections, invite 1,000 every week, you're just increasing the chances of more people coming to your event. And because of the title and stuff, they're self-filtering. So here, if you wanted to add a speaker, it's right here. You could add, okay. You could also, again, just go to manage events, edit, and then add like where I added myself as a speaker. But this is really critical. You want to have it on your calendar where it's like right when you create the event, you send the first 1,000 invites, and then I would mark it on your calendar for the, 7 days later, the next 1,000, 7 days later, the next 1,000, 7 days later, the next 1,000. Because if you don't, you may forget. And then now you've put a lot of time and energy into preparing for an event that instead of inviting 4,000, you only could invite 2,000. Yes, you can only invite 1,000 per week. You can't do 4,000 at a time. Which is why I'm like saying the operational like organization and planning of it, you need to remind yourself to invite the 1,000. So then the next thing that I would do is I would make sure that you understand what it is that you're going to share, start to outline or start to really think about what would be the most useful things for you to share for the live video event. A good time frame is like 30 minutes. So you want to go live for about 30 minutes, which means that the first 2 minutes should only be your intro. And this is where a lot of people will, as they're starting, they'll go too long. So I'll be like watching a live video. It's 4.5 minutes in and the person hasn't even gotten to the first point. You want to get to the first point within 90 seconds. 2 minutes literally tops. And the reason is because in the beginning, you want to optimize not just for the live viewer, but also for the replay viewer. And the replay viewer, there's no timestamps on these videos, so they don't know when you're going to actually start. Also, if you spend like 4 minutes on an intro and you're just like wasting time, it may not signal the authority that you want it to signal. So I like to have people get to the first point definitely within 2 minutes. And then I would focus in the beginning on like 3 major points. So I would section the video off into like point 1, point 2, point 3, which means that you really have like 8 minutes per point, because you want to leave a few minutes in the beginning and then a few minutes at the end for any frequently asked questions or to present whatever offer you have, so on and so forth. The other thing is that you don't only want to present your call to action at the end of the training, because most people won't be there by the end. So, and you want to do it in a way that makes the most sense. So for example, if I'm like, these are the 3 ways to, the 3 steps to grow on LinkedIn, let's say the first step was to do your profile. It would be a very wise decision of me to then introduce the profile optimizer or to even mention the accelerator at that moment, because the first step is literally to have a strategy session and optimize your profile. I don't have the solo session, so I wouldn't just, do a call to action for a strategy session. But the thing is that I'm putting the appropriate call to action in the appropriate section. If the second step were live video events and, I had a template for how to structure your live video event, that could be something. I could also just have one call to action and then tell people like, this is going to be part of what you learn in the call to action. But how you do it is very important. And you want to challenge yourself to mention your call to action within every single point, major point that you mention in the live. And it should not feel forced or weird. It should just feel natural. Like, yeah, this is the first step that I do with clients. And then you could tell them how to help them, how you can help them and stuff like that. Where people go wrong is that usually the call to action is like too vague, or for example, they'll say, let's say the first step is optimizing your profile. And it's like, yeah, if you want to work with me, DM me. Well, what does that look like? You could go into, well, the first step with working with me would be to have this strategy session. Then our team will optimize your profile. That will include your photo, your banner, rewriting your headline, your about section. Like, I'm just telling the truth in all of this, but it makes sense when I'm talking about optimizing a profile. So the call to action is matching. I'm not talking about, oh, this is how you optimize your profile, and then also download my carpentry ebook. People's brains need to understand that your call to action is the next logical step to get that result. If not, you won't have a lot of, conversion when it comes to the call to action that you're trying to present. Does this make sense? Put a 1 in the chat. So, and this is something to be very cognizant of, because this is probably one of the weakest links that I see with people over and over again. Is like, what is your call to action? Deciding what it is, making it very clear with what they get and why it's relevant to whatever it is you're talking to them about. If that's not clear, it's going to be hard for people to wrap their mind around. And with the live video events, one of the things is that what you prepare to say is important, because the better the 30-minute asset, the more it can carry you in terms of content, in terms of repurposing for newsletters, in terms of repurposing for video clips, in terms of repurposing the transcript for just posts, like text posts on the feed attached to images. If you present things that are too generic and that don't deeply resonate with your ICP, then all you will do when you repurpose that content is scale things that don't resonate, scale things that won't get them to reach out for your call to action. You're scaling just generic stuff, and then it won't land, right? And then you're doing all of these things for what? So if the live video is correct, if it resonates with the ICP, and then you scale that, then you're just multiplying chances of success everywhere, reaching the right people, people reaching out to you, so on and so forth. So what you say, how you present it is so important, because everything kind of goes downstream from there. So don't just look at it like, yeah, I'm going to share these 3 quick tips. I would put yourself in the shoes of your dream clients, pretend they have no idea who you are, and ask yourself, like, with what you're going to share, reading between the lines, does it prove that you actually know what you're talking about at a very deep level? Does it prove that you understand their problem? Does it prove why you're different or better, or what you believe in the industry and how you can help them? You need that answer to be yes. If they could just search ChatGPT and get those same tips as like the first result without any additional nuance that you have added, then it's not deep enough. Does that make sense? Put a 1 in the chat. Put a 1 in the chat. And any other questions you have related to a live event? Because this is the core of everything. So put the date. I'm curious if you're going to do your first or next live video event, put the date that you think you could do it in the chat. Lawrence, I showed it on the screen. All you have to do is click manage and then click edit event, and it's at the bottom. Yeah, so if you have over 4,000 connections, you would want to do it 4 weeks from now, the soonest, right? Because I mean, I wouldn't extend it anymore. But yeah, you want to leverage inviting 4,000 people. Now, if you have 2,000 connections right now and growing is also going to be something that you're going to be interested in doing, then you could do it, what is it, January? You could probably do it like, February 10th or whatever, mid-February. And the topic matters. So the topic, just understand, should not be general. It should be something that you want the people who, and I'll show you. So hold on. Okay, let me see. Share my screen. Yes, you have to have the topic when you schedule it. So here's the live event that we created. As you can see here, there's people that are already clicking attend. Now, this is very similar to the newsletter subscribers, right? One person who's in the cohort that's coming up, that's starting on Tuesday, actually within her strategy session, she was a little bit ahead. So she actually launched her newsletter yesterday and already has almost 500 subscribers, which is crazy. And the point is that we were very strategic with the title because you have to be. So what everyone has told her, the almost 500 people in the last 12 hours or 18 hours, is that they're active on LinkedIn and that they want to learn about that topic. Same thing with this. If they don't see themselves as some type of business owner or entrepreneur, and if they don't want to learn about LinkedIn marketing in 2026, then why would they register? They wouldn't. So here, I could already start to see who's coming to my event, which is a valuable list in and of itself. If I look at your event title, and it's like if I was to do like mindset for 2026, so many people would attend. But, who are those people? It could be a lot of corporate professionals and stuff, which is great, but I serve business owners. And so you have to be strategic with your live video event titles. And then you will click here and then you'll start seeing the list of people that have already clicked attend. And then you could, start to message them or whatever. I wouldn't recommend that actually. I recommend messaging after the fact. And then here, this is also why you want your thumbnail to be clear, because, you know, I'm even zooming in and I still can't read half of these. So when you have a very clean thumbnail with a big title in your face, it stands out, because most of the other live video events look like this. Okay. We would be using event attendees to measure topic relevance. If only 2 people show up, find another topic to present. So that's a good question. I mean, it really depends what your goal is, right? So if my goal is to do a live video event where I get, let's say, one high ticket CEO for a very high ticket offer to accelerate their personal brand and like 2 other people on their team for the next 6 months, if that doesn't happen from that live video event, or like within a week of that live video event through calls and stuff stemming from that live video event, then in my brain, the live video event failed. I didn't resonate enough. I didn't have the right messaging. And so it depends what, you know, for me, you could have, sometimes the most popular events don't necessarily mean the highest outcome on the back end, and sometimes they do. So it really just depends on like what your goal is. And, you know, do you get inbound from that goal? And what I would do is I would track. So this is why pushing the call to action is important, because if you have the right messaging and you push it accordingly, then the more quality eyeballs, the more chance of getting the calls. And then if you know how to sell, you close. So it really depends. Like if somebody tells me, yeah, I get calls after my live video events, or, you know, after my lives, but nobody buys, they may just not know how to sell, or they may be talking to the wrong type of buyer, or their offer may not be strong enough. So then it's about, usually what it is that they're still talking to the wrong type of buyer, which means that the messaging has to improve. Or it could be that they're trying to fit a bespoke buyer into a generic coaching package that they don't want to buy. And then that strategy has to be a little bit fixed, you know, on the back end, optimized on the back end. But usually it's the wrong person or the wrong presentation of the offer, like an 80-20, I'd say. But if you know what you're doing, like my experience that's been with real experts that have a successful business, that have only relied on referrals up until this point, you know your business inside out. You know that if you get on the call with the right person, you're going to close them 8 out of 10 times. You know what you know, and you know you're good. Then usually what happens is all you need is more quality conversations. And, you know, 3 of those quality conversations a month coming from like one big live event is so easy. And those are the people that I love to help the most, because they know how to sell, they have big ticket, and the difference between them doing live video events and not could mean multiple millions of dollars a year inbound. They could hire more people. They could hire more consultants like on their team. They could spend more time with their family. Like I've seen that transformation. It's a little bit harder when the person doesn't really know their offer, doesn't really know how to sell, because they'll get conversations, but then can they close? So that's a different story. It's so nuanced. Like answering that question is really, like, you have to track. How often can you do a LinkedIn Live event? You can do it every day. So if you're going to do, and that kind of goes to relationships college question on day 1 about like, what if you want to go live every week? So even if you want to go live every week, you still want one anchor. So you still want like one live where you're going to do all the invites, because if you split it into 4 and invite 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, it sometimes won't build the momentum that you need. So I would do, if you're going to do weekly, I would do like 3 pop-ups, which is just like you're going to go live, but you're not going to invite people. And that's a good test too, because you could see what's the baseline if you don't invite people. Maybe you'll see like 5 people live and 100 people will watch the replay. That's not so bad. And then you also get diversified assets, especially if your messaging is right, to then, clip into short form videos and just get more practice, get better, so that your flow and your energy and what to expect for the one that has all the invites is kind of, that stress is a little bit diminished in a way, versus just putting all of your energy in one basket and not practicing beforehand. It's not a bad idea. It really depends on the person's skills though, because not everyone needs to do that. Like I've worked with somebody who has I've worked with a couple people who have a few 100,000 subscribers on YouTube and who have done hundreds of, they've been in their business 25 years. They know how to do a webinar. They do keynotes every month. And so someone like that doesn't need to do that because they have all the practice in the world. They just need to show up on the LinkedIn stage once a month. But if someone's never gone live, never done video, never done a webinar, that's a different story. Any ideas if my ideal client is an internal client? What do you mean by that? Now, the other thing that you could do is once you create the live video events, you want to think about how comfortable you are with then sharing that event to your LinkedIn newsletter. So let's say you have 500 subscribers to your LinkedIn newsletter. I just created this event. Tomorrow, I could blast it to my LinkedIn newsletter and say, hey, I'm going to be live February 23rd. This is what we're going to be talking about. Click here to attend. It's 1 month in advance, but a lot of people like to plan. Then maybe the week prior. And this is something that we'll talk about in the accelerator, is depending on, what it is that you do, the industry that you serve, how aggressive is it, how aggressive do you need to be with the email reminders, and what should that cadence look like for every single one of your live video events. For some people, it's more than others, depending on who they serve, but you may want to have like the week before or the day before. And then, of course, you could have a recap or guide them to the replay. And when you do that is also dependent a little bit. Do you do that the same day? Do you do that in a few days? Oh, so you mean basically your client is their client, but for me, it doesn't matter. For me, it's just one question. If you just need to reach more loan officers, who do we attract? How do we get their attention? How can you provide value to them so that you can start to build a relationship with them? So on and so forth. I recently had a client who, he's in real estate, can only do a niche part of real estate in one niche city in Canada. And it was kind of the same thing. The client was really a client of real estate agents and brokers. That's how he would reach the homeowner. So, it was very simple. He just became the thought leader in that particular niche thing. The real estate agents started to pay attention. He started to get on their podcast. And mind you, it's only real estate agents in this one city in Canada. And, everything just started to snowball from there in a good way. So for me, it really doesn't change. It's still answering, who do we attract? What about paid master classes? Is this a good strategy? So it depends. I would have to ask you some questions. It really depends on like how many paid master classes have you done? Do you have a system that, it's like, hey, Shanae, I do these once a month. I get 50 people to buy, and this is what I do. And now I want to use LinkedIn to double that number. There's some people that come to me like that. Like, hey, I have a monthly webinar. We have 200 people that join. We want to use LinkedIn organic to just get more registrants to the Zoom, because the more registrants we have, the more we sell, right? And this would even be for a free one. Or is it, I want to start doing paid master classes. I don't really know what will work. And I don't even know if they'll pay because I've never done it before. What should I do? That's a completely different question. And it would really depend. I am Mildred Black. So I would reach out. I could help you either way, but I would have to know which scenario it is. And yes, the free LinkedIn Live events can work to drive registrants for the paid master classes. But again, it just depends on like what evidence do you have of what has worked for your brand. And maybe you don't know. So I worked with somebody once who she was a professor on sabbatical. She's never done any of this marketing stuff before. But she loved to teach, right? So I'm going to leverage her strength. She's a professor. What we did was all of her organic content. She had a very small following, I think like 1,000 or 2,000 connections on LinkedIn. We did the organic content to including a live video event to a free Zoom. Anybody, I've done this with multiple people, anybody on earth, even with like 1,000 or 2,000 connections, even if they just post organic on LinkedIn, can get 40 to 50 people to register for a monthly Zoom. Okay. Because like for me, a master class is different than a live. I want to like, I'm going to publish a lot on live video and like the differences for each one. And workshops are different than a master class. Like we kind of interchange these things sometimes. A challenge is different than a webinar. Don't get me down the rabbit hole. But so what we did was she got like 45 people registered. I think like 15 or 12 people showed up. And these are the things that people don't really understand. They'll be like, oh my God, like 45 people registered and only 12 showed up. It's like, that's pretty good for your first time. Like you cannot expect 100% show up rate. Anywhere between like 25 and 35% is great. And if it's lower, then the question just becomes like, okay, well, what can you do to double it? Were there any reminders sent? And for a Zoom where there's probably not, that's not so bad. So then out of the 12 or 15, she got like 3 or 4 one-on-one paying clients. And she's like she didn't have a frame of reference. So she's like, did I do good? I'm like, you did freaking great. Like that's a 30% conversion. But that's what I'm saying. You don't need like a big, 45 people registered, 12 of the right people show up. You do a great presentation. You love to teach. You provide value. You get however many calls. She had like probably 5 calls over the next week or two. And she closed like 3 of them. And then the next problem became, well, how do I manage this as I go back to teaching? And it was a new problem, but new problems are good problems too. So it just goes to show, and literally anyone with 1,000 to 2,000 connections on LinkedIn can do that. But it's just about the consistency. So, yeah. And sometimes that's not the right strategy. Sometimes people don't need or love to teach in that way. Sometimes the live to DM to call is enough. So I really just also like to focus on like what makes the person feel alive, what's the person's strength, because it's impossible to sustain a process that you don't enjoy. That's something that people highly underestimate. Like if you're trying, and I'll share this. So I have a friend who does not particularly like coaching or like one-on-one coaching. And for a season, he got into a business where it was like built off of one-on-one coaching. And it was interesting because like he was killing it, but it's just not his forte. And so it's like if you build a business on one-on-one coaching, but you don't enjoy that business, it's not going to sustain as long as someone who actually loves one-on-one coaching 100 times more than you and would do that every day for the rest of their life, 12 hours a day. Versus if you love to teach, then maybe the selling mechanism should be around teaching, which is something like me. Like I love to teach, which is why long form video, live video, master classes, whatever. I hated cold calling. I didn't like outbound DMs. So then I chose this mechanism because I love it. And so I'm just going to be more likely to sustain it for longer and enjoy it and help people along the way. And I think a lot of people miss that. They look at what someone else is doing, but they hate that process. And then they'll try to scale that process and then wonder why they're miserable. So I hope, are there any other questions? I know we kind of just delved deep into the live video, but I think that this is important because like through my process, if you don't get this right, then all you do is scale the video clips, the posts with the images, all of it is scaled from something that doesn't resonate with the type of people that you want to attract, your ideal client, ICP, whatever avatar, whatever you want to say, with the person that you want to do business with. And then you're just getting views and doing the motions for what? It's not making a difference in your business. So if you want to join the accelerator, we start on Tuesday. It's pinned to the top. If you have any questions about it, then just email support@growthacademy.global. Again, this is not a course. All right. So you're not being thrown like a 3-hour module to watch. You won't have to watch any modules. We have action items every single week. Week 1, strategy and optimization. Week 2, newsletter launch and newsletter sustainability, which is publishing the newsletters on LinkedIn, but doing it in a way where you could be reached outside of LinkedIn, like at Google AI mode, SEO, and all of that. Week 3, create your next or your first LinkedIn live video event and do it in a way that the title is right, the thumbnail, you do your invites. Week 4 is how to deliver. You will actually practice delivery and you will learn how to include your call to action and which call to action to mention multiple times in your delivery. And then week 5 is that sustainability, repurposability moving forward so that you know it's a well-oiled machine so that within 6 months, you're also ready to deploy on other platforms. The live meeting each week can run anywhere between 90 minutes to, on average, it's about 90 minutes. The LinkedIn newsletter training can sometimes go even like an hour and 45 minutes just because it's so much. But usually they average 90 minutes. It could be an hour of the teaching and then like 30 minutes Q&A, practice, clarification. And also the cohorts are small, 10 people or less. So you're getting personalized attention. The other thing is, let's say that you're provided the assets to update your profile on a Wednesday. We tell you to do it, do it over the weekend. Come Monday morning, if we don't see your profile updated, you're getting nudges because we need to go to the next step by Tuesday, right? So you're not just getting nudges from me, but my sister also works on my team. Her name is Lene. And so she'll be reaching out as well. Yeah, I know Shanae and Lene. But, and it's kind of like, okay, done. Yes, nudges with love. Because sometimes, like, and I'll just end with this, because sometimes, like, the things that stop us are, it's not the knowledge, it's the human side. So specifically with the last cohort, and just in general, like me sitting across the table from hundreds of business owners at this point, it's not that people don't know that they can invite 1,000 people to their live video event. It's that they're scared to do it, right? So they'll create it and we're watching. The registrants don't, the numbers don't seem right, you know? And with those nudges, it's just like the pattern services of like, oh, but what if my ex-colleague sees this, or like, what if this? And if we have to get on a 5-minute Zoom just to literally watch you do it, we will. Because it's so critical that those 1,000 people are invited to increase your chances of success. So there's a lot of that. And that's why just making sure you get it done is important. I've seen so many people just sit on, oh, I'm still planning. I'm still like strategizing my LinkedIn newsletter. It's like a month later, they're still thinking of the name, still reviewing their draft, which is like 30 words, like 50 words. And it's just, it's fear. It's fear and uncertainty, and it's human and it's normal. And I've seen it time and time again. And like, I expect it at this point. So we put, measures and those guards in place to just make sure that people do what they need to do to move forward. All right. So if you have any questions about that, go to support@growthacademy.global. Ask whatever questions you want. Does LinkedIn know which 1,000? Yes. LinkedIn knows which 1,000 are already invited. In fact, if you go to, like, let's say you try to go invite more, it won't check them for you. So they'll be like kind of shaded off where you're unable to re-invite them to that same event. So don't worry about that. All right. So I hope you enjoyed the training. I appreciate you. And, this is literally, if I were you starting to build my personal brand today, or like starting to go all in with it and scale it, it's the things that provide you the most leverage. And it's going to be one of two things that happen, because I've been doing this long enough to know, and I still see it till today. And I see it not just with myself, but other people on even different platforms that also build their brand there and stuff. It's not easy. If it were easy, everyone would do it. If it were easy, everyone would do it consistently. And it is 1,000% worth it. Because at the end of the day, especially with AI, a lot of AI is going to commoditize a lot of services. And you can either choose to protect your business and build a moat by going all in with brand, or in 2 years, you probably will wish that you had done it. And that's just the best advice that I could give you. So I'll see you next time. Have a beautiful day, and ciao.